All right, hey guys, we're going to continue working on, we're finishing up the page art for the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration supplement that we've been building. So give me a second here to check my signal. I'll go through my intro, and then we'll get started. So let's see here. Am I going to get a mic check to make sure my volume's coming through okay? Going to get a mic check. Yeah, it sounds like I'm coming through pretty good. Excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and gear this stuff up. Here to bounce through my intro. Hey, my name's Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition here for the past few years. Actually, ever since Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica was released. God, that was back in 2017. So that was when Ravnica came out. That was the first Magic the Gathering crossover entering into the 5e game space, and I was hoping there was going to be something about color mana, being that's what made MTG so famous. But it wasn't present. They translated MTG logically into 5e D&D spell slots and 8 schools of magic, but that wasn't scratching the itch that I had. So you can see linked down below, the 5 color mana spell point variant rule system replaces the 8 schools of magic and spell slots with a color mana system to cast your spells. So that got me started on doing homebrew, and when in August 2022 it was announced that they were going to be creating Spelljammer Combat, Spelljammer's Adventures in Space for 5e, we were excited because they had already created ship rules on water for in Saltmarsh. And the Ghost of Saltmarsh manual, and they had created vehicle combat rules for trucks and wheeled vehicles in Descent into Avernus. So we all kind of thought there was going to be vehicles for flight in the Spelljammer's Adventures in Space, but there wasn't. It just said, hey, if you want to do ship mechanics, you can refer back to Saltmarsh. Go buy that book. And that was really disappointing. So I got to work, same sort of idea. It was an itch that wasn't being scratched. I wanted a system that converted normal 5e combat into things that can be done as a ship. So that's what I did. And here we are. This book is nearly done. So we've integrated almost all the art here into the book. I just have a few smattering details that I want to resolve today, and so that'll finish up this PDF. After this, we just want to finish the ship art, the little ship tracking sheets that we have for each of the pre-generated ships that we have in the game. And but this spot right here is nagging me. There's too much white space. The rest of the first 80 pages of this is a conversion. Wait a second, you guys can't see anything that I'm doing. God damn it. There we go. Hey guys, so here is, I'm obviously tired because I didn't move my title plate out of the way and you couldn't see all the scrolling I was doing. Hey, I just posted I'm on X Twitter platform. I'm at Phil Kearney. If you're still on that platform, you want to catch when I'm live. Otherwise, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, get notifications when I'm live in the future. Algorithms don't like me, so it's a climb for this sort of long. We're 345 episodes into making this book, and this is not the quick, snappy sort of content that YouTube likes. So I get anything that you can do to share or post this stuff, or just like, subscribe, and stick around for the future if you catch this in the future. I really appreciate you. Thank you. So yeah, we're building this book. It's 107 pages. The front 85 pages is mechanics. Taking 5e Player's Handbook and DMG and basically translating the spellcasting, combat, and adventuring chapters of those books and translating them so that they can be used with 50 and 500 foot size ships to upscale the 5 foot square that a character would sit inside of. And then the last 25 pages is a conversion guide for Light of Xeraxis. And basically, when Spelljammer's Adventures in Space was released in 2022, it came with an adventure called Light of Xeraxis to showcase the setting that they created and how you could implement that into a campaign. So they gave us Light of Xeraxis as a means of doing so. So when we built this book with the new rules to be able to engage in combat and exploration throughout wild space and the astral sea, we also converted the Light of Xeraxis using all these mechanics in your own game, how to have ship combat, the roles that the different creatures and characters aboard the ships would take during a round of combat, new maps for different types of combat challenges that you can have in vehicles, of vessels at the 500-foot scale, fighter craft at the 50-foot scale here, and as well as squadrons and fleets at the 1 mile scale to be able to conduct these different types of battle that are possible with ships in space. But as I was saying, and you couldn't see, the one nagging detail in this I'm really happy with how all of this is sitting, but there's these little gaps here down in the corners occasionally. Like this one's not a problem. This one could be, this is too small of a corner to really worry about, but this is a lot of gap here, but it's consistent with the other gaps that we have, except for this one. This is a huge empty space, but this same space here, like filling this with filigree would crowd what's going on with these characters being depicted here. So I'm not really motivated to filigree this corner. This one is too much space. It's gawky. So gaudy is the word I'm trying to use. It's a little gaudy. The rest of this piece is pretty good. I'm happy with that. Yeah, this is a little bit of space, but you need to have a little bit of breathing room occasionally. So what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to actually pluck page art. I created this back on episode 15 if you want to see that. But I want to pluck this page art from the combat section of the book. There's a similar gap that exists here that we see down here. So I think I want to pluck this. You pluck it. I'm going to switch this out here, this icon. Like that. And then I think I just want to extract this to see what we can do. So yeah, let's do that. Let's just grab all this, copy, and then duplicate that layer as a new document. There. We can shut down this page equals no. We can take this one and crop it. Crop. I realize I have this little dirtiness going on inside of the navigation bar that I made. I did not realize there was this flaw in my icon. I don't see so good. So until I zoomed in really close, I literally had not realized that like this little scratchiness is going on inside this icon. So I'm gonna have to go back through and fix all that, but I won't do that here on screen with you today. This is something I'm aware that I need to do. What is the size of this? Let's resize this. Let's make this canvas size is going to be 2.6. 8.5 by 2.6. So let's see how large of a space that's going to occupy over here. Because I don't think I'm going to be able to do the whole thing smoothly. 8.6. 2.6. 8.5 by 2.6. So let's create a new image space here. And then let's align to the page, center, and bottom. And oh my, let's make this transparent real quick, so we can see through it, so we know where we're sitting. And it looks like that's going to be pretty tolerable. I want to. Why is there a gap? There. Oh yeah, because I created a gap because I didn't mind my own gap. That's what's going on there. Because we should go image canvas size. It should have been pushed down at the bottom like this. 3. There. Cool. Now let's scrub at this a little bit. It should be all the change I really need to make right there. That should be sufficient. So let's scrub across like that and make sure this stuff all locks in good. And let's apply. File size equals save as equals to the computer equals. Let's go to insert pages, done, and locks, and this is going to be part 1, seeds, and we'll go to PNG. What page is this anyway? Page 83. There we go. So we'll go 83 bottom. There, outline, no. Just waiting for this thing to save. There's a progress bar at the bottom of the page that you can't see because of how I have the screen capture cropped. But we are 99% saved on that image we just created. Waiting for that to finish up here. So what we have left, we have we want to finish up this filigree. I'm going to fix the ballista icon art. I'm going to do that off screen. There we go. We have the creature, character, and ship tokens to extract as individual assets. And let's see, fill here equals fill picture from file. My mouse is acting wonky. Interior pages, done. Locks, done. Part 1, seeds. I like how that sits over there to the side, but we can fill in the gap a little bit more. We can fill in this gap a bit. So let's just spend a little bit of effort and time on that, since we're just doing some artwork this morning anyway. Like this. Just to see where this goes and what it does. This stuff is fun to do. There we go. Just grabbing and integrating. Just messing around. No real. got a sense and idea of like what kind of space I want it to fill, but I don't have anything. I really don't have anything preset here, so we're just kind of letting it Bob Ross and dance around, creating happy little wisps of ether. Just like that. It really is no. It's just laying it. It's just figuring out how to let it fill the space and look aesthetically pleasing. It's just clouds, you know. We're just making weird colored clouds. All that it is we got going on here. So yeah, we want to finish the ship tracking sheets, extract all of the tokens into individual files. Break up the maps into chunks that can be into printable chunks. Obviously, the VTT makes it easy. You can have a map almost any size, like up to 100 squares. That's a huge map. That generally you don't need that much space to make your game work. But at the tabletop, if you're actually playing in person, less and less people are. But if I'm going to really respect what I'm trying to do here, I want to make it easy for anyone, regardless of how they're playing, to be able to integrate these assets. So I want to build those out. And there's only a few maps that need that anyway, so it'll be relatively easy, which is what I think I'm going to do. I think that's what I'm going to do on my workbench on Saturday morning is break apart the maps. Because I'll be spending most of Saturday packaging assets anyway, so I'll just spend a little bit of time on Saturday morning basically showing how that process works. And God, this is only Thursday. That's awesome. So we're looking really good for publishing after the weekend, like maybe on Tuesday. I'm not sure exactly, but I am just about out of tasks to perform to get this thing published. And when you run out of tasks, you're ready to go. So we're out of beta. We're releasing on time, as GLaDOS would say. I really like how that's bleeding across. That feels really good. So I'm probably about done here, and we'll scatter in some stars. Stars. I'm glad I got burned. Think of all the things we learned from the people who are still alive. Na 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 na. Go ahead and leave me. I think I prefer to stay inside. Maybe you'll find someone else to help you. Maybe Black Mesa. That was a joke. Haha, fat chance. Anyway, this cake is great. It's so delicious and moist. feels. I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be too. What was it, Jackson Pollock? I want this chaos to feel orderly, you know, like that it has a purpose. So this wispiness that we're building into this piece, it's I mean, it's an art, you know. It's we're making clouds like Bob Ross, you know. It's basically what we're doing here. Oh, God, I love how that looks, though. It's so fun. This should be, I think once I integrate this little waft here, we should be good to go to start sparkling in some stars. Oh my God, my body just wants to tear itself apart. That looks super fun. I love that. I love this. I like clouds. This is such a perfect setting for me to be able to do art with. I just love making wisps and clouds and little, I don't know. I don't even know what the word is. Like little, it's not filigree because it's not like it's, filigree is all the little texture art that you see like in armor or like that is stitched into belts or like little flowers or like leaves and vine stuff, like just like little, it's like little corner art, like little line art that you see like indented, you know, like I was saying, into armor or like into the side of a cup. Little flourishes on banisters. This is all basically called filigree. And when you're building a page, this is basically spot art, but to an extent, it's the filigree of the pages. Just a little bit more, ornate than traditional filigree. Doesn't that shit look cool? Love that stuff. I'm using a custom smudge brush. I have a promise out there that when I get to 500 subscribers, I'll share my toolkit, all the brushes, all the custom brushes I build for this book. I'm at 341 subscribers right now, and YouTube does not like me at all. I think I've been quiet. I think I've been quiet banned. I'm going to try, I think after this weekend, I'm going to try making some more published videos and see if that, like I was, like at one point I was getting like, 200 views a day, and now I'm down to 12. The only thing that changed is that I stopped making weekly videos. So I think that's, I don't think I'm banned so much as just irrelevant. So apparently I need to make more videos, which I lament, but maybe I can extract conversations from these videos. I keep saying I want to go back through and extract conversations from videos, and the longer time drags on, the less capable I'm able to remember interesting things that came up, and they just kind of get lost, which I think is a shame. But I don't have the bandwidth to both produce books and create content, like to make YouTube videos. You know, like I can come on stream and I can live stream because I'm making art while I'm doing it. It's a twofer. But if people that honestly aren't interested in it, then what's the point? So that's something I'm struggling with. Even better. Nice. All right, I'm happy with that. Next thing I want to do is, first off, I want to merge that down, of course. But now we're going to build some stores. I can take some of these darker spots. Like that. There you go. Now I'm going to duplicate that layer, and we're going to blur it. It's a Gaussian blur to help create some glow. Merge that down. We can traipse through here and drop the opacity on some of these things to help blend them in. Good. And then we can merge that down and then do it again. Just want to knock down the intensity of some of these lights so that it's not so, uniform. Like that. Not bad. I'm happy with that. So let's merge that. And file, save as to computer. PNG is nice timing. All right, so while that's working, we'll save that. Whoa, are you seeing that? Look at that chop. Jeez, oh crow, look at that chop. I am dogging this computer. Holy Hannah. 32 RAM just isn't enough anymore. 9600 Asus processing card. i9 chip. It's a monster of a computer, but even with that, just the OBS and the massive Word document and that's just apparently too much. It's too much. Swap this out. We go to fill. Whenever we replace the file, I've replaced the image in the box. I'm using Word, and it works great for me. Picture from file. There we go. I guess I could technically push this up further to break frame. think I actually want to do that. I'm going to push this up. Image, canvas size, we're going to expand it out to 3 inches. Let's see. So let's do that here to see where 3 inches sits. It should be close enough to the bottom of the Eldritch Cannon that it'll sit pretty. Shape format is 3, and then arrange, align to the bottom of the. Yep. See, there you go. Right up underneath the Eldritch Cannon. That is the proper place to be. So I'm going to fill this in a little bit more. Doesn't have to be anything too dramatic. It just really just needs to be some more, just a little bit more height. So I can still keep, for the most part, this lighter tone that blends into the page. But I want to make sure it is all aligned. Very nice. I like how that sits. It's very pretty. I want to have a decent blend of large and dark space, like these different patches of light and dark. They need to be. You have to think about the amount of the density of activity, or the what's the right word? The density of detail. Like large simple spaces are easy for your eye to rest on. Like I actually want resting space in the page, because as your eye is processing information, it wants to be able to take a breath, just like you do when you're having a conversation with somebody and sharing information verbally, like that. So you have to be able to allow the eye to take a break while it's absorbing information on the page, as well as between. Like in a conversation, maybe you can speak a paragraph without having to take a breath, but you have like maybe 2 or 3 points to make across a couple paragraphs. So each paragraph, say there's 2 columns on the page, right? And so each column could be considered a paragraph that you may need to take a breath in between before proceeding. So having blank open space at the bottom or mid page inside of a column allows you to take a visual break, as well as that kind of corresponds with the break of information that you're providing. Like the text is providing a block of information that you're absorbing visually, but most likely listening to in your head as a conversation as well. If you sub-audible words that you read, like if you like reading to yourself, like you speak to yourself while you read words. I do that a lot, especially technical information. By listening to myself reading it, I absorb technical information more efficiently. If it's a novel, I can just skim the words and just pick up the information, because it's just a passive entertainment. It's not something I'm studying. But if it's something I'm studying, I'll slow down and listen to it in my head as I view it. That looks pretty good too. Let's do like that. Oh god, I love how that looks. It's too pretty to die. Let's give that a go. We'll merge. We're just going to be bold and merge that down because that's what it deserves. Merge down. Now we can file, save as to the computer as a PNG. Blum. That's going to take a moment to save. So yeah, we'll build. Oh, there's that chop again. God damn. I am making my graphics card bleed this morning. That is wonderful. Right. So yeah, we'll be building ship cards and breaking up maps on Saturday. Between then and now, it looks like I'm just going to be stitching up the book. Probably blasting out the tokens into individual files. Yeah, we got a little bit of work to go, but boy, we're close to being done. Very, 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 very close to done. Fill with color. Fill with picture from file. This one. There you go. There, that's filling the space a little bit better. Like that. Wavy gravy. Let's see how it sits in a PDF. So, file, export, interior pages, test PNG, insert, options is page, documents, bop bop, no properties or tags, publish, equals, yeah, I think I'm good with that. Actually, it's a little bit imposing, so I actually want to back that off a bit, which I can do with a masking layer. It's a little too up and at 'em, you know? That. Let's go back into here. Drop this guy in just a bit. Blending is, I think, going to help fill this space without interrupting it. Come on, baby cakes. Thank you. I want some baby cakes. Who can blame you, kid? I bet that's gonna sit pretty. So let's apply that and let's get rid of this background. Let's hit the file, save as, PNG, make my computer bleed. Bleed away, buddy. Oh, look at that bleed. Oh my god, so brutal. I'm gonna have to restart my computer when this is over. Let's see. I'll be back on tonight. I think we're going to be working on the ship statistic sheets tonight. Tomorrow morning. God, tomorrow morning's Friday. I guess we'll finish up if we're not done with the sheets yet. We'll finish that tomorrow, and then Saturday we'll break up the map assets, and then I'll probably spend the rest of Saturday during the day on my off time integrating, breaking up the assets, and then packaging them. Boy, we are really, really close. There, that seems to be sitting nicer. So let's file, export, PDF. Interior pages, PNG insert, option is current page document. Blip, blip, blip. Okay, publish, single page, go pop. Thank you. Yeah, I like that. I think that is a good job. It fills the space, but it doesn't intrude upon the statistical information. So that is appropriate. Nice. All right, so there's that. Resolved. Doom doodle doodle doom. Get to resolve. Next up, we want to do is I just want to take a quick look here to see if God, do we really need to drop anything? I don't want to put, like I said, I don't want to put anything in this. I don't want to put anything in that corner, but I'm willing to do so. Kind of like it being open. Definitely leaving that space open because that's too small of a spot. This is honestly on the edge. It's if there's 4 lines of space, that's generally the cutoff point. And this has 4 some odd lines worth of space. This is too small as a space, so you need that open. This though, this actually might benefit from some embellishment here. I'll consider this one. No here. I think that's literally the only other place I really need a picture. Checking on it, checking on it, checking on it. These are all good. These are good. This is questionable. Questionable. There's so much box. There's so much gray box on this page. This might actually benefit breaking that up by putting a splash art down in here. That might actually be smart. That looks good. That's fine. Jesus. Okay, great. So what are we looking at? Potentially, I was already looking at this as being too crowded, and I think that's still true. Yeah, I think I'm okay with those being open. Yeah, Yeah, I'm okay with that. Okay, cool. So that means that the only piece that we really want to make sure we take care of at this point is here, which is also chapter 1. So let's go ahead and pick this. It was a no. And then let's go back into the book and find that. Open. There it is. This is working out. God, this is really, really working out. Yeah, let's just be that. I don't necessarily want to blend it down into the bottom frame here. I'm happy with it just staying up here on the walls. That'll be unique. Yeah, I don't think I want to break frame over here. I think I want to leave those square, but I'm okay with smudging the bottom here. Let's drop down our strength a little bit to start wafting this into a smoke effect. I could have just built a page, like a solid page of this like of this wispy effect, and then just cut paste. I could have done that, and maybe in a future document I will, but I wanted each of these, even though it's more work, I wanted each of these to have a custom, their own custom look to them. Even if I'm just modifying another one, it's just, I wanted to have like the lean into like the mercurial nature of the astral sea. And that's why I wanted to stick to mostly a very gray palette when I'm building these. If I was a phlogiston man from 2nd edition, then I'd be able to use all sorts of swirls of color. But I wanted to stick with that silvery gray tonedness that you get for Astral Sea. That was important to me. I respect folks that like phlogiston from 2nd edition. It's an unusual transitive property, and it explains why you would have spheres to keep the kerosene gas of the phlogiston out of your wild space. But I just don't think, I was never a big fan of it. Like, even back in 2E, we pretty much just glossed over Phlogiston's stupid. Let's just make it not explosive. And in 2E, we didn't think of making it Astral Sea, like Astral Space. We didn't think of that until Planescape came out. And then once Planescape did, it's like, oh, yeah, this should just be Astral. And that's how we've been doing it ever since. So, I mean, not that I'm a cutting edge sort of guy, but it's just I've spent a long time just thinking of, like in 5E, I wasn't, or in 4E, I was not a 4E fan. I was playing Cypher instead of D&D during the 4E era. Well, a bit of Cypher, 3E, Pathfinder 1, and then once Cypher came out, we switched over to Cypher for a different type of game, and the narrative flavor of Cypher is excellent. Yeah, the Astral Sea just feels so right as the place for ships to be drifting through to get between worlds. It's just it's a no-brainer. At our table, it's a no-brainer. But I ain't yucking on nobody's yum. Ben Milton at Questing Beast and Daniel at Bandit's Keep, they've kind of fired off some musings from an OSR perspective about like what actually makes D&D, like it's not a game, it's a system of games. Is it a mindset? Like what exactly makes D&D D&D? And I've spoken to this before, like how like the original Dungeons and Dragons was an amalgamation of various different games that already existed, put inside of the fantasy trope chassis to be able to create Tolkien-esque experiences or dungeon delves for your table. And I really like how modular 5e is. Like 5e is a lot of work for DMs, and that's obnoxious. I can see how new DMs or new people to the RPG industry could sort of like bounce off of how high of an entry level 5e requires of whoever's running the game. But for somebody that's all like a seasoned gamer, somebody that already knows how to DM and likes doing it, the work that you have to put into to make 5e work in general, like mechanically, is mostly dependent on how unusual, how divergent is the type of campaign you're running from run-of-the-mill dungeon crawl, epic quest, save the world in 24 hours gameplay. That is where Wizards has basically planted their flag on how they think D&D should be portrayed. And so if you're staying inside of that box, there's very little work you need to do at all other than balancing combat encounters. But if you want to bend genres and start using 5e to express different styles of game, people like to reflexively say just play a different game that's built to do that. But the 5e engine is built to do that. It's just D&D doesn't portray it well. So if you want to do a heist type game using 5e mechanics, you can. It requires more work in building it because that's not what Dungeons and Dragons was meant for, but 5e is perfectly capable of accommodating heist type games, which is useful if you are playing D&D and you want to switch out the type of adventure you're having. Like when you're playing a video role-playing game, like a computer console game, there's escort missions, there's stealth missions, there's assassination missions, there's various types of like there's like hunt and assemble missions, resource gathering missions. There's all these different types of missions that exist, like say Baldur's Gate 3 or like Fable, an old Xbox game. Um, Assassin's Creed, Prince of Persia. There's all these different types of like mini games inside of the actual Elden Scroll. Have all these like little mini games, but they all exist inside of the same game engine. They're using the basic same physics. So the big problem, I think that doesn't. I think that people that like throw out little one-liners, you should play whatever instead. Like, it's that instead thing that's robbing the agency of the game that the players actually want to play. They want to play D&D. They have a character sheet. They've built up their character. They know what their character is. They don't want to change what they're playing to enjoy their campaign. They just want to have a means of, like, we want to do a heist today. Do I have to learn an entire fucking new game system? That's the problem. Like, the problem with mass combat systems, for the most part, there's been a lot of people that put out mass combat systems for 5e. But all of it is a mini game. It's a separate game that takes you away from playing 5e to play whatever it is that they sold you. And if they're a popular content producer, that might be okay for you because you want to support their efforts and you want to see that company specifically succeed. But you're no longer playing 5e when you do that. You may as well be playing Blades in the Dark or like Warhammer Fantasy. Why not just play Warhammer Fantasy? Because you don't want to learn an entire fucking new game system. That's why. So at some point we know we're not playing 5e anymore, but it's close enough that we're still willing to put in the work to learn it. In my perspective, you should just offer a mass combat system that uses the 5e game chassis so that you don't have to stop playing the game that you thought you were going to play, but still able to express this different style of game, which is like the in-command system that I was streaming that created like this book, this Spelljammer book, the fleets and squadron mechanics, and the commanding multiple siege weapons per round. That's all mass combat mechanics for 5e that I built. We were already in the process of playtesting vehicle mechanics using Descent into Avernus trucks when Spelljammer was announced in August 2022. So I put the command project on hold to build Spelljammer. Spelljammer is like a golden this campaign setting is a bucket list item for Phil. I love Spelljammer. I love Planescape. Planescape doesn't need nearly as much mechanical weight as Spelljammer does, so I decided to throw all my eggs in this basket for the past 19 months to make this thing viable. But it's a very viable upscale ship system for 5e, and I could have exported it as a standalone RPG sort of thing to have as a Kickstarter or whatever, but I created it because of my love for Spelljammer. I don't want to pay homage to the campaign setting that I've been in love with since I was 16 because it's more profitable for me to make a third-party thing. I can always extract these rules as a separate RPG if I want to, but I want Spelljammer. It's emotionally, it's what I want. I get to clear this off my list, like there's not a lot of people that get to do that. So I'm very blessed. How we doing? Doing pretty good. So far, so good. So what? A second session of the Eberron Spelljammer Asteroid Belt campaign. That was yesterday with my home table. It went really well. It went really, really well. We had 4 it's kind of a West March style game. where people drop in, drop out, kind of like in Gauntlet Legends in the arcade. You'd drop in a quarter, you'd have a character for a while, you'd help push the mission, and then we're done with the session, and whoever shows up next week drops a quarter in to hit continue. And so it was our second session. First session we got through. It was brand spanking new. People were still learning the system. I'm still learning the system that we built for this. Again, it's a 5e variant. High focus on ability checks as our resolution mechanic. And the first session last week, we had 5 people show up, and we got through basically 2 rotations. Each person... we're doing individual initiative where you take an action, maybe move, like draw, like pull an object. Like there's like some free actions you can take, like climbing or moving without effort. Like if you have to swim up, a waterfall, that's going to be a task that takes effort. That'll require an ability check to achieve. But for the most part, it's just ability checks. And so we were still figuring out how that works, and people were still sussing through, how to make this engine work. So we got through about 2 rotations, and it was individual initiative. So we're calling that a turn, right? Everyone had 2 turns the first session. This week we had 4 people show up, and everyone had 5 turns. So I suspect with 1 hour, 4 people were able to process through 24 turns, which included me as a DM providing pushback and the description of what's happening, and then asking questions. And it's just constantly pushing the ball forward. And basically every time that they had a question, like if they had a question about the environment or something, they didn't get to ask it until it was their turn. So we're basically breaking down the world into interacting and observing environments, creatures, and objects. Those are basically the 3 modes, like the 3 targets that can be engaged with, and you're either interacting or observing those objects. And then there's combat, which is attacking, which is a specialized form of interaction, a hostile form of interaction, but it's still interaction nonetheless. So we, in future iterations, as we continue along, we may be able to grind combat down into just into creature interaction, instead of having be held out as a separate task of combat. But we have 4 classes, right? We have a soldier who is specialized in combat actions and defense. There's espionage, which is mostly focused on objects, interacting and observing objects, as well as mitigating complications, eliminating complications. There's espionage. There's delvers that are specialized in interacting and observing environments, and then there's diplomats that specialize with observing and interacting with creatures. So those are the 4 basic archetypes, like the 4 basic forms of engagement inside of the game that are built into these class specialists that are like Dragonheart, Shadow Dark in style. That there's a random table of different mechanical benefits that a character can gain as they increase their level. They get to roll on a random table of either just generic benefits or specialist benefits. And as you gain levels, if you've already gained a specialization of like one option from specialists, you can then go into another specialist list and like randomly multi-class into other specializations. Because normally it's just an ability check based on whatever your the 6 ability scores that you have. It's just a basic ability check without proficiency. Each specialization can add their proficiency bonus to the soldier can add their proficiency bonus to combat, attacking things. The espionage, the spy, the espionage specialist can add their proficiency to interacting and observing objects. Diplomat for interacting and observing creatures, etc. So they each have the ability to use their proficiency bonus in unique sort of ways, but you rarely add. You're only occasionally adding your proficiency bonus. So the team is already starting to separate between, like they occasionally get a free floating proficiency bonus to use on any die roll that they want. But once they've used that, they can't use the proficiency bonus again until they rotate through their stack of stats. You've got power for charisma and strength. There's skill for dexterity and intelligence. There's grit for wisdom and constitution. And you're rotating between these three facets of your character's ability scores. And we're just calling them facets for now. So when you use a facet, you just use the best one. And so like if you're using power, it's just a generic, it's just whatever bonus is better between your strength and your charisma. When you're engaging power to achieve a task, you can just use the flat mechanical bonus that's best between your strength or charisma. So, but if you have a complication and I make a body check, right? A body check is going to require to use either your strength, your dexterity, or your constitution. A spirit check is going to make you roll against. It's basically saving throws, right? Like 4th edition style saving throws. You can choose your charisma, intelligence, or wisdom for the spirit check. But once you use a facet, you can't use that facet again until you've used all three of them. So if you like take an active action, like if you act with your power, that cuts off your strength and your charisma until you've gone through your grit and your skill. So you're constantly rotating between which ability checks. It's not this task requires this ability check. It's I want to perform this task. Which ability check is available to me right now? And that flavors your narrative. Like if I want to open this door and I don't have power available, I'm going to use my grit to just use sustained force to push the door open. And then whichever stat is better, my constitution or my wisdom, that will be the flat bonus that I use representing my grit to push through the effort needed to get that door open. As opposed to skill, like I could use my generic skill bonus of whatever's better, intelligence or dexterity, and perhaps like narrate it as like I know if I tilt the door, like if I'm trying to open a door, like I know if I tilt the frame, like lift and push the frame a little bit, I'll be able to get a little bit leverage to be able to maybe unstick the door. Like that's how you can narrate that, because I was using skill instead of power or grit. So I can change the narrative, but it's still just an ability check to achieve the task. And then that ability, I can't use, I wouldn't then be able to use my skill. If I'd already used my power and I already used my skill, whatever next task I want to perform, or if I force you to make a check, like if I make you make a body check and all you have left is your skill, then you're going to have to use your dexterity ability check. Your ability bonus. If it's a spirit check and all you have is skill left, you have to use your intelligence modifier. But then once you've used all three of your aspects, it resets and you can use any of them again that you any again that you want. So you're constantly rotating between all 6 of your ability checks to achieve the things that you say that you want to do. And whenever I make you check, once during those 3 aspects, you can use your proficiency on anything that you want. So basically 1 out of 3 die rolls that you make can use proficiency when you want, but you won't be able to use it again until you finish your rotation. But you rotate through every time you take an action and every time every time I force you a saving throw. You're rotating through the same stack. So they're replenishing their stacks and then regaining their proficiency bonus, and then they have the combat specialists can always add proficiency bonus to their attacks. So they can hold that proficiency bonus off to the side for when they need it. And if they're focusing on attacking stuff, they're always rolling with proficiency anyway. So they're getting the maximum value out of that thing that they're specialized in doing. So the team is starting to gravitate towards what their specializations are. And when we make the characters, we're randomizing what the race is, what your ancestry is, what your specialization is, where your stats go, what you're proficient with, and what perk you get per level. The entire character sheet is randomized. And it's basically it's 2d6s and 2d4s to create a first level character. And then for every additional level that you start with, you roll an additional d4 to randomize what your class benefit is. So it's a really fluid system, and we were able to get through in the 1 hour that we had. The team was able to rotate through about 24. Yeah, it was 24 active tasks that they performed themselves, and I challenged them like maybe an extra 6 times. So there was about 30, and then when I challenged them, they're all making multiple checks. And this is like being challenged is when they can take damage. So they start with 10 hit points at first level. One of them's down to 5. One of them's down to 7. One of them's down to 3. And another one hasn't taken any damage yet. So there's a wide range there. And if your character dies, you just roll up a new one real quick, and they just get inserted into the scenario. But if the entire team gets killed, actually, I don't think there'd be an occasion where, I think at this point, the way that we have it structured is the entire team can't get killed, because if they're always importing new characters, there would not. It would be an incredible circumstance that there would be a TPK, because you can rotate you can make a new character so quickly that you can just, as your characters get killed, you can just rotate new ones in. But the goal isn't for your character to progress. The characters are just performing episodic adventures to help further the goals of their guild as a whole. And the guild, where they're at right now in the adventure, is they've found these bugs that dissolve rock but don't touch metal. So they're in this asteroid that has these veins of platinum, and as they're diving further into the asteroid and getting closer to the colony of bugs that are infesting this place, they're finding these raw patches of platinum that you can just take a pickaxe, clink, and now they got like a 16-pound chunk of platinum. That's just, wow, these bugs are really useful. So, like, maybe we don't want to exterminate them. Maybe we want to capture and train them. So they're trying to figure out how they can exploit this so they can take it back to their guild. So it's like, hey, we have these bugs that eat rock and expose metal. We think we can become better miners if we can learn how to exploit these bugs. And so they're contemplating that right now. And so if they're able to extract them and essentially train them to become pets, then they can potentially increase the quality of their mining operation moving forward. So every adventure that they take, the goal as players is to get through to handle whatever the problem is. But while they're handling the problem, is there something they can take away from this to exploit or to integrate into their guild to improve what their guild has available to them? So when they go out on future missions from there, they can potentially add these things that these tools or skills or spells that they've acquired during the adventure to supplement what their characters or the guild is doing in the next task. So the episodes are presenting problems that they need to solve on behalf of the guild, and if they do, like, the treasure that they get to take away from is, here's a new resource that's available to our guild to be able to, like, gain advantage on a mining check, for instance. Because we have these bugs that can eat rock, we can now increase the effectiveness of our mining operations. So when we make a mining check as a guild, we can now make those checks with advantage because we have a colony of insects that we bring in with us. So we're becoming like monster herders. Instead of just digging out rock, we're now herding insects to to help eat the rock for us, and all we have to do is scoop up the leftover ore. So that's what they're currently wrestling with. Is like they're like at the edge, they're at the door of the colony, and when they went in, they were thinking that they were going to have to kill this place, but now they're like, oh boy, we don't want to kill these things. These are valuable. So what are we going to do? And that's their challenge currently. So the entire campaign gets to go through. As they continue to build, they'll find more and more fantastical solutions to the problems that they have, and they get to shape the progress and efficiency of their mining guild based on the things that they pick up along the way. So they want to dive into these different type of experiences because they don't know what kind of resources they're going to get. And the higher level they get their guild as a whole means the higher level characters they get to take into scenarios, which means they'll be able to more efficiently resolve small problems and be able to handle larger complications. So it's so far so good. It's really working out nicely. And the efficiency of us processing through yesterday was really, really high. Like being able to process 30 tasks in 1 hour for 4 players, that's pretty good. If I can anticipate processing even with humor and jokes and memes and side cackles going on during the course of the adventure, we were still able to process 30 tasks, whether observations, combat, or interacting with different things that they found in the adventure. That's pretty efficient. It moved really fast, and they're being really creative about the things that they solve. Like at one point, the diplomat was like doing like a dance to try to confuse and charm the insects, and he botched the roll, so he created a complication that he unwittingly angered them. They apparently have some sort of dance language that he stumbled upon, but he doesn't know how to speak it, so when he screwed up his die roll, he ended up making them angry, which triggered them to attacks, and now his effort of diplomacy has led them into combat. And they're being right now. They've triggered the swarm of the hive, and the whole hive is now viewing them as hostile. So they're going to have to try to figure out a way to either get away, or to calm them down, or just physically overpower them. But that's the triggering event now that is causing a cascade of problems for them, and they're not sure what they need to do next. And I don't know either, because I didn't know they had a language until he attempted to communicate with them and he did his die roll. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess there's some sort of a language here, but you don't know how to speak it right, so you've made them angry. They loved it. That was perfect for them. So now they're making jokes about dancing with bugs, and it's awesome. It was a really fun session, but it was very cipher, like it was a very nice space between the cipher systems, improvisation, powered by the apocalypse, narrative approach, and just old school D&D. It was super fun, and as a DM, all I have to do is understand the basics of the environment, the creatures, and the objects that they're going to be interacting with or observing. And once I understand the basics of that, I can just improvise the rest. I don't need to know the answers to anything because the answers that I need to know are going to be triggered by the questions they ask and the results of the die when they do so. So they don't have to roll a die to just observe obvious things. Yeah, there's a giant robot over there. Well, do I have any idea about its origins? It's like, well, that's going to require you to make a die roll. You're going to have to put effort into figuring that out. You'll either know it because, if you're rolling your intelligence because you figure this is something that is a skill issue, I would just know this. Then great, go ahead and roll it. And they're making the decisions that they're making. They're not necessarily because they're not necessarily because there's only a difference by like 1 or 2 between the different stats. Like because of the facets using good and bad, at most there's going to be a difference of like it could theoretically be as much as a difference of 4, but that's it. The spread of differences in their stat modifiers is literally a difference of 4. So there's not huge differences in which stat roll they're going to make, but there are significant enough to matter, as well as whether or not they're able to add their to add effort, quote unquote, which is what we're calling the proficiency. Whether they can add effort or not to the task, and we're not using a flat proficiency bonus. They're rolling a proficiency die, and it's a D4 at first level. It's a D12 at 5th level, and they only go up to 5th level. If they continue to quote unquote gain levels, they could continue to add additional benefits and extra perks to their characters, but their power curve isn't going to get any greater than when I'm using effort. I can add a D12, which could be anywhere from a +1 to a +12, on top of like a +3 to strength, right? So it'd be a D20 +3 to strength. Like +3 is the largest bonus they get unless they get a perk that says increases strength by +2. Then they'd be able to increase their strength. But otherwise, it's going to cap at +3. It's the proficiency die of effort that they're using. Whether they can use effort or not, that's going to make a really big difference at higher levels. Because that rolling a 12 with a 20-sided die, it's basically the challenges scale from 1 to 10, which is a difficulty of 4 to 31. So at 5th level, when they finally get to 5th level, we're rolling like a D20 +3 plus D12 could result in a 35 if everything lands perfectly, which isn't much better than a 31. So there's a high likelihood that they're going to fail tasks often. But I don't need to throw difficulty. Like difficulty 10 task is going to be like a once per session challenge. Normally it's going to be like an 8 or a 9, because an 8 or a 9 is going to be like a DC of 28, 25, and so they're still going to need proficiency bonuses to be able to even hit those numbers. So it's the high end of the game is the low end here at first level is clipping very nicely. It's once they build up to higher levels and we see how the disparage between using or not using effort is how that's going to impact the game. That's where I think the difficulty at higher levels is going to come in. Like higher levels will become potentially more difficult than low level games. But they'll have more resources available to deal with it. They'll have more hit points to be able to absorb complications. So it might actually pan out really well, which will be ironically what the bounded accuracy system was designed to do. I am not a big fan of the rules lawyer, Ronald, the rules lawyer, because so often he clickbaits conversations about Pathfinder as a comparison to D&D, and like, Pathfinder is a grown-up system. You can use it as its own reference. But he had a recent video about the failures of bounded accuracy, and he is completely right that Wizards presented this idea of bounded accuracy, but didn't adhere to it or the tenets of that bounded accuracy at all. It was supposed to be tasks never really get much more difficult than what they are, scaling from basically a DC of 4 to 31 that I've implemented for my game. And the difference is supposed to be in that you have more hit points and resources to be able to overcome these challenges. But it doesn't really work out because there's so many things that add stacking bonuses that the bounded accuracy becomes irrelevant when you can roll like a 50 on an ability check, right, or an attack roll. That bounded accuracy of capping at 31 doesn't really matter that much anymore, and that's a big problem. The solution is to have less stacking bonuses, which is what I've implemented, as opposed to like increasing the target number that you need, which is what Pathfinder and 3rd edition did. So we may have a very, very good bounded accuracy ability check role-playing game on our hands. At first level, it's working out very nicely. It's the higher level shit that we're going to have to take a look at. And so I'm going to let this team play out like this for a while. But I might artificially give them access to a higher level team just so I can play test at higher levels. But I'm also not in a hurry. So letting the campaign play out organically, if the campaign can survive long term, we'll have an opportunity to test those higher levels. That's what I need to be able to do. So I have to check the health of the table so that I can continue to test the system as we get into higher tiers of play. So that is my effort. And so far the team's on board with it. They think the system's fun. They're enjoying the narrative. So we can keep having at this and play it out. And it is 7:56. I've got 2 minutes left until my alarm goes off. I'm digging this. I'm really, really digging this. But I am out of time for the day. But luckily, we have tonight. So I'm going to come back tonight. Not 100% sure on what we're working on tonight. But we are crazy, crazy close to having this book finished. So as I continue pushing through these different little pieces of art that need to be done, every time we finish one, we take another step forward. So I'm going to go ahead and close out stream for today. If you catch sight of this, I think the algorithms are against me. So if you spend any time here, please like and subscribe, and post it somewhere if you think this stuff is interesting. I'd love to have you around, and I just want to be able to share these ideas with people. So I'll see everybody on the other side. Thanks a lot for being here, and I'll be back in about 12 hours. So see you then. Laters.